Welcome to our lab to learn constellations that are visible during the summer. The constellations that we learn in this lab are visible for most of the summer and even much of the fall. We are in Stellarium, and let's begin with our typical setup to get onto the summer sky. First, we pause the simulation so that time won't move. Second, we come over to our date and time window, and the date that we want to enter is August 10th at 10 p.m. And remember, this is 24-hour time, so 10 p.m. is 22:00. Seconds don't really matter, but we'll change that too. Now we will go into our sky and viewing options window, and let's reduce our light pollution. And we will turn off the planets so that they don't disturb us. And we'll need to come back to this window in just a minute, so I'll move it off to the side for now. Now let's zoom out so that our field of view is around 115 degrees. You see right now it's 60. It doesn't have to be exactly 115, but somewhere between 105 and 120, 125 is where you want it to be. So let us zoom out. Need to go just a hair further. Oop, bit too far. There we go. That'll be close enough. And now let's point up so that the S is down at the very bottom of the screen. That works. Okay, now we need to go back to our view window. What we need to do is we need to click and drag this slider that's in the labels and markers window for the stars. We're going to drag it to the right just a hair until a new name comes up in this star that's in the upper left of the screen. So click and drag. There we go. If more names than that pop up, then you've gone too far, so we'll just leave it there. Finally, let's go to the landscape and make sure that you are on the ocean, so that any trees or buildings in the other views don't block any stars that we want to see. And now I will click and drag this and exit out. So here we are in the summer sky. Our signpost in the summer sky that we will use to find most of the constellations is the Milky Way. And the Milky Way starts in the upper left of the screen near Deneb, goes down between Vega and Altair, and past Antares and down into the south-southwest. Now the Milky Way, if you're in a dark spot, it will look brighter than it does here. If you're in a light-polluted area, you may not see it at all. Our first constellation is Cygnus. Now this is one of those rare constellations that, with a little imagination, looks like what it's supposed to, and it's a swan flying south, presumably for the winter. Deneb is the tail of the swan, and then there are a few bright stars that make out the main neck and wings of the swan, as shown here. This is sometimes called the Northern Cross because it looks very much like a cross, but the constellation Cygnus contains a few extra stars. So let me connect all the dots. Remember, we can do that with the letter C. And you see that the wings of the swan go further out to the side than just the cross itself. As I said, Cygnus is a swan. If we look at the artwork, we will see that it is indeed flying south. Our next constellation is the constellation Lyra, and it can be found sort of tucked under the right wing of Cygnus, and the bright star Vega is the main star in that constellation. The rest of the constellation, as you see here, is fairly small and nondescript. It is a little trapezoid off to the left of Vega. The name Lyra means the liar, and I don't mean L-I-A-R, as in someone who doesn't tell the truth. I mean Lyre, as in a stringed instrument, sort of like a small harp. So if we look at the artwork, you can see that, well, I don't know, perhaps that little trapezoid is like the main body of the harp and they've just drawn it artistically. I'm not quite sure. Some people like to think that Lyra looks like a necktie, with Vega being the knot and the rest of it sort of hanging down underneath. Our third constellation is Aquila the Eagle. Now the brightest star in Aquila is Altair, and Altair is an abbreviation for the Arabic word for eagle. So both the constellation and the brightest star are the eagle. It's sort of hard to pick out an eagle from the way this is connected. Some drawings will connect Altair to the wings and make it look more like a manta ray than an eagle. Artwork-wise, you see that the eagle is flying north. In order to give you a good look at the constellation, there's one bright star underneath the word Altair. So let me turn off the star names for a minute. You can see that in the constellation Aquila, there are two stars on either side of the star Altair that sort of define the head of the eagle. Our next constellation, further down the Milky Way, is known as Sagittarius. Sagittarius is this group of stars down here, and you see all sorts of appendages. Don't worry about that. Those are faint stars and usually not visible anyway. Look at the main part of the constellation, and it looks sort of like a teapot. Oh, it's a short and stout teapot. Here's the handle. Here's the spout. And you even see that there is steam in the form of the Milky Way coming out of the spout of the teapot. Most people, when they look in the night sky, they see the teapot. But the constellation Sagittarius, the word, means the archer. And Sagittarius in mythology is a centaur, half human, half horse, who is pointing a bow off to the west. These stars here are the bow itself. Here's the arrow, and then how all those other appendages work into a horse, I don't know. But let's see that we're right here with the artwork. Our next constellation is further down the Milky Way, and that's this group of stars. You can see that they make a definite little hook, and this is the constellation Scorpius, the Scorpion. Scorpius is one of those constellations that it doesn't take too much imagination to see a scorpion. Here's the artwork, and you can see that hook is the tail with even the little barb on the end. The three stars at the front are often depicted as the head of the scorpion. I'm not sure why this divides it into three, but no matter. This scorpion does not have pincers. They were cut off centuries ago and turned into a separate constellation, the constellation Lyra. That yellowish dot is another of these stars that I want you to know. Its name is Antares. Antares is thought to come from words meaning anti-Ares. So anti means against. Ares is the Greek god of war, better known as Mars from Roman mythology. And the planet Mars is a very similar color to Antares. Antares, it is a red supergiant star. It's a star that one day will go supernova, probably not anytime soon. And the planet Mars, as it goes along the zodiac, will every couple of years pass by Antares. And so you have the two red objects opposed to each other right there in the sky. Our final constellation is the only one not located near the Milky Way. It is in this region up here. This is the constellation Hercules. Hercules is the hero, the strong man who had to complete 12 tasks. In artwork, he's often shown upside down and kneeling. In this particular art, he is struggling with the multi-headed Hydra. but I tend to view it slightly differently. I see him standing upright, waving his arms madly in the air, because as you can clearly see, he just took an arrow to the knee, so in a lot of pain. In the constellation Hercules, there is a globular cluster called Messier 13, located roughly about here under his armpit. And if you are in really dark skies, you can barely see it at the edge of your vision as a little fuzzy spot, and even a small telescope will show you that it is a huge conglomeration of stars. These are the constellations that you need to know from the summer sky: Cygnus the swan, Lyra the lyre, Aquila the eagle, Sagittarius the archer, Scorpius the scorpion, and Hercules the hero. The 4 bright stars you need to know are Deneb, which is the tail of Cygnus the swan, Vega, which is the brightest star in Lyra, Altair, the head of the eagle, and Antares, the heart of the scorpion. All right, you may now finish the packet. You will need to go online to answer some of the questions that I didn't cover here, and then you may turn it in the appropriate drop box.